You know, some families argue over who left the lights on, others over who forgot to feed the dog. But there's this one family, they've taken arguing to Olympic levels. Their fights feature political rants, broken distilling equipment, mock assassinations, fake police raids, and at least one deeply unfortunate safari bed. And no, this isn't a reality show. This is one of the most chaotic, brutally honest, and darkly hilarious African plays I've ever read. One that peels back the polite wallpaper of domestic life and shows you the messy, raw brick underneath. Stick with me, because by the time we get to the end of this story, you'll see why this family drama is really about the burdens we carry in our homes, our marriages, and in a society that's been turned inside out by power and politics. Our story opens in a not-so-glamorous living room, you know, the kind of place where cow dung doubles as wall paint and cobwebs qualify as interior decor. Sitting there is Tinka, mat-weaving queen and unofficial minister of sarcasm, who looks like life has slapped her, run her over, and then reversed just to make sure. Her son Kaija, all of 14 and already too old for his years, enters complaining that his 9-year-old sister Nyakake has wet the bed again. But he's not just there to whine, he's got plans. The boy wants to start selling groundnuts to save up for his own bed. That's how desperate things are. Their conversation is interrupted by the sound of dogs sniffing outside. And if you're wondering why that matters, it's because dogs sniffing around here could also mean thieves are coming. The real fear, though, isn't just thieves. It's poverty, disease, and disappointment. Kaija even suspects Nyakake might have TB. Tinka sighs.
Were not your father such a heavy drinker, we could take the girl to a proper doctor.
And just like that, the dragging begins. Tinka launches into a full-blown roast of her husband Wamala, a once glorious cabinet minister, now reduced to a bitter, broke alcoholic. She even trains her son to do it with her.
Next time, ask him innocently, father. Do old mothers buy beds for their sons, pay school fees for their children, and poll tax for their husbands?
Ouch. Shots fired. Kaija tries to defend his father, saying Wamala believes Tinka is
a big millstone round his neck, a big burden.
But Tinka isn't done. She flips the script.
Next time he'll say you are a burden, dragging him down with your school fees and beds.
Now, instead of lending Kaija 2 shillings for his business plan, Tinka says she'll make and sell mats. This way, she's in control, and he has to keep his mouth shut about their little conspiracy. But this home isn't just broke. It's haunted, not by ghosts, but by the bitterness of the past. Tinka remembers a happier childhood when her mother told her stories. Kaija, wise beyond his years, says,
Anger and bitterness are the cause of your unhappiness.
And when he says,
We have been a burden to you,
she snaps.
No, I live my life for you, my children. He is the burden.
So, the night just gets weirder. Tinka, though she's not exactly thrilled about it, starts telling a story, the tale of Ngoma's beautiful Gourd. Now, it's about this leper who, against all odds, wins the chief's daughter by climbing a tall tree to fetch a gourd that's got her umbilical cord tied to it. But right as she's about to wrap up the tale, Wamala comes walking in, and Tinka finishes the story with a sharp edge, saying,
That's how a common leper, stinking with leprosy and commonness.
Enter Wamala, triumphant and grinning. He's brought home a second-hand safari bed. You'd think he'd brought the moon down from the sky, honestly. Kaija, she's over the moon, saying,
Good old father, you are just wonderful.
But Tinka, she's ice cold. She just coughs out.
We are fed up with second-hand things.
Wamala doesn't let it get to him, though, and starts pitching his latest money-making ideas. His newest invention matches with 2 heads, because, well, why waste one side? He even tried selling the idea to the company, but they just showed him the door with a big ol' Hakuna Kazi poster. Then, all of a sudden, he switches gears and starts talking about making money by writing slogans. He's already made 50 shillings with one for a political candidate named Vincent. But Tinka, she just brushes off his whole international slogan syndicate dream, calls it madness. And just like that, the marriage erupts. He calls her a burden, and she doesn't even argue, just says, "So I am." He threatens to call the police. They fight, and she ends up hurt and bleeding. He goes to wash her elbow and starts ranting about how a man needs peace at home, saying,
"A man wants sympathy and tenderness, not silent curses."
Their son runs in, begging him not to hit her again, saying,
You don't know how much it hurts.
but really, it's the past hanging over them, the wealth they lost, their fall from grace. He blames politics and corruption, while she blames ambition. They even start reminiscing about their wild, scandalous early days, how he seduced her right out of the convent and they ended up making love in a cemetery. Romantic, huh? The act wraps up with a bitter truce. The world outside's betrayed them, their dreams have crumbled, and all that's left, as they shuffle off to bed hand in hand, is each other. The next day, Wamala is getting ready for a big meeting with Vincent, dressed in borrowed clothes, looking for all the world like a has-been actor trying on his old costume. He's just terrified of being humiliated, but Tinka tries her best to coach him through it. Before he heads out, he lets himself drift into a daydream, imagining he's back in power, giving grand speeches, chasing after girls, signing those shady deals. It's honestly a sad, delusional performance. Tinka finally has to physically pull him off his makeshift podium. So, they go ahead and roleplay Vincent's meeting. Now, Tinka is just way too good at this. She acts all pompous and patronizing, even goes so far as to offer him a cigarette, calling it a 555. Wamala pleads about the terrible conditions in the slum, but Vincent just sneers at him. When he pitches his two-headed match idea, Vincent shoots it down with some cold, hard logic. Wamala snaps and starts calling the rich
Bloodsuckers, exploiters, arch-swindlers.
Tinka, still playing Vincent, fires right back, saying the poor are dispensable and uncommitted. She even pulls out an imaginary gun and threatens him. And that's when it happens. Wamala just loses control. He smashes Tinka's distilling apparatus and grabs her by the throat, nearly choking her to death. Then, suddenly, there are bootsteps outside. Soldiers. Memories of his arrest come flooding back. He panics, thinking they're coming for him. Tinka taunts him, saying the room is bugged and they heard his threats. In desperation, he grabs Vincent as a human shield. But surprise, it's just Kaija. Wamala almost attacks his own son before the truth dawns on him. Ashamed and broken, he collapses into silence. And Tinka? She just laughs, long, loud, and hysterical. Because really, what else can you do? The final act opens with Tinka packing hurriedly. Kaija enters, panicked. Where is his father? She casually says he's gone. He fears the police have taken him and blames himself for everything, selling family heirlooms, fighting neighbors, and upsetting his parents. Wamala had actually found him by a swimming pool the previous day and justified his drinking before sending him home. But later that night, he came home wet as a sponge and carrying the odor of illicit intimacy. Another fight broke out, this time over sex. Tinka cryptically says,
I realized I had been right, so I stormed in. And it happened.
What it is, she won't say. But Kaya dreams of a woman stabbing someone and Tinka suspects he saw something. The children, now suspicious and heartbroken, describe their mother's appearance.
You've grown old overnight. Your arm is scratched. The veins show on your legs.
Tinka breaks. She sobs, apologizing, promising a journey, but they refuse to leave. Nyakake wants her father. Kaija has exams. And then a knock on the door. The police. Tinka's final words screamed through her tears.
And always remember, it was not my fault.
The curtain falls as the three of them, mother and children, huddle together in one broken heap. This unforgettable story of love turned toxic, ambition turned bitterness, and power turned to dust is none other than The Burdens by John Ruganda. This play is one of those works that hits you in the gut and then keeps twisting the knife. On the surface, it's a domestic drama, a dysfunctional family dealing with poverty, disappointment, and resentment. But underneath that, it's a powerful political allegory about post-independence Africa. Wamala is more than a failed husband. He's the embodiment of the African elite after independence. Once powerful and idealistic, now disillusioned, bitter, and clinging to faded glory. His political slogans, failed business ideas, and empty speeches mirror the broken promises of a new nation that never quite delivered. Tinka, on the other hand, represents the ordinary people, the ones who carried the real burden of failed leadership. Her bitterness isn't just personal, it's historical. She is the backbone of the home, but also the one forced to clean up the mess left behind by male ambition. The children, Kaija and Nyakake, are the future, hopeful but traumatized, trying to make sense of a world their parents have broken. And the title, The Burdens, captures everything. There's the burden of lost power, of betrayal, of failed dreams, the burden of love that's curdled into hatred, and perhaps the heaviest burden of all, the truth that none of them can escape from what they've become. Power and its collapse. Wamala's rise and fall mirrors the disillusionment of post-colonial African leadership. Gender and domestic struggle. Tinka's resentment shows the gendered burden women often bear, emotional, financial, and physical. Corruption and betrayal. The political world invades the home, showing how public failures seep into private lives. Intergenerational trauma. The children's suffering highlights how parents' choices shape the next generation. John Ruganda, who lived from 1942 to 2007, is widely regarded as one of East Africa's most influential playwrights. Born in western Uganda, he studied at Makerere University and quickly became a towering figure in the region's theater scene. His works, including Black Mamba and The Burdens, explore post-independence disillusionment, political hypocrisy, and the intersection of the personal and the political. Ruganda's style is unapologetically raw. He blends satire, social commentary, and tragedy in a way that's deeply human and unmistakably African. With The Burdens, he created not just a play, but a mirror, one that shows us the ugly truths we'd rather ignore. The Burdens isn't just a play about a broken marriage. It's about a broken promise, the promise of a better future, a stronger nation, a happier home. And as heavy as those burdens are, Ruganda reminds us that they're not just carried, they're also passed down. And until we face them honestly, the weight never really leaves. If you love African literature that digs deep into politics, power, and the human heart, this one is a must-read. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.